Coming out today on Eagle Eyes on Tech, Cloudflare took out pretty much the entire internet. We'll get into details as to what that's all about. Android now just has airdrop, apparently. That just kind of happened on a Thursday. RAM prices are going to increase the cost of all the consoles, and the Mac Pro may in fact soon go extinct. All that and more coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, North Swim, good array of this Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. We're in a kind of a funny story. We're not recording live, for starters. I had a bit of food poisoning or something. I don't know what. I did not feel well. And by the time I did feel well enough to actually go ahead and record, it's 10:30 at night. So no lights, no audience, just us. Just you and me, as podcasts really were intended to originally be, but it is what it is. We're not going to go ahead and say what is or isn't a podcast out nowadays, but I mean, that's how they kind of were. They were always offline. They were never something that you always just kind of had a live audience for. It's not something that's very common, but in this case, it is what it is. Also, I'm not going to bother with the big lights. That is actually technically where I'm at. We're supposed to not have any lights on at all. So we're just going to have like this kind of cozy ambiance for the few of you that watch the video podcast. It's also why I'm not going to be like super animated. I hope. We'll find out. Let's get to one of the bigger stories. There's a lot of actual big tech stories this week. The big one that seemed to be like all the rage and is now making everyone kind of question a whole lot of how we do things is involving the company, once again, Cloudflare. So what Cloudflare does is that they offer a service that is kind of unique in the fact that they provide DDoS protection. The way they do this is that basically they go ahead and detect not very authentic traffic and then try to distribute the blow of said traffic across its massive network of everyone that's hopped on board. Kind of like in the same way that bulletproof glass stops a bullet. A bullet's going to go through glass every single time, but with bulletproof, instead of letting the bullet go through, it tries to disperse the energy as far as it can, shattering as much surface area and absorbing as much of the impact so it doesn't. Cloudflare kind of does the same thing, except more sustainable. The problem is that if Cloudflare goes down, everyone that uses Cloudflare suffers. Now, because I know I do have some Final Fantasy 14 fans, they're going, wait a minute. So there is protection against DDoS attacks. Yes, there is. However, because FF14 is based on such a strange architecture, it's not as compatible with Cloudflare as, like, say, web services or video services or most things that support Cloudflare. So maybe that's something we can look forward to down the road. But right now we just endure what we are dealing with. Who knows? Maybe they'll figure out a way to do it. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But it does mean that when Cloudflare has an outage like this, and this isn't the first time Cloudflare has had an outage, a lot of times if you see large chunks of the internet just go down, it's been Cloudflare outages. And in this case, there's a lot of speculation, and even my dad heard, oh, there was a cyber attack and it took out almost all the internet. Oh my God, I can't believe our government let this happen, had a cyber attack take down everything, all because of this Cloudflare thing that they targeted. Oh my God. You know what that actually was? It was a bad update. A bad update made worse by human error. That's it. It was taken care of, about an hour later. However, because the outage was so widespread, it took roughly 6 hours after the fact for restoration to finally be felt by everything. Whew. That's a big yikes. And this kind of brings up some interesting questions for a lot of things, right? For the most part, we all rely on centralized services out there. Very few people out there have their own personal cloud data storage. Very few people out there have their own media server. Very few people go ahead and try to run their own servers for various cloud infrastructure. It's not something the individual person does, like, ever. It was, however, something that the average business used to do. They, however, don't anymore. Just about every single small, medium, and even large business out there now utilizes these massive pieces of cloud infrastructure out there. So when an outage like this happens, boop, all gone. Not to be seen. So what do I recommend? Do I recommend everyone go ahead, spend $500 on a whim to buy a 22U to 12U server rack, buy a whole bunch of off-lease servers, learn Proxmox, set up a massive, not really a massive, but a small little home lab, and then go ahead and set up a bunch of virtual machines on there for a 24/7 uptime with 3-node failover cloud infrastructure, so they can go ahead and run Plex and pick your cloud service and all that sort of jazz. Do I recommend that the average person do that? Of course not. Only silly people do that. Stop staring at me. But I do wonder, how long until small businesses start considering, maybe having a small server sitting in an office isn't the worst idea in the world. It might not be the worst idea in the case of all of this downtime that may or may not occur because of, well, first the AWS services that went down about a month or two ago, and then Cloudflare going down what seems like almost every quarterly, so on and so forth. Not to mention, remember CrowdStrike? Whoo! Granted, that has more to do with that has less to do with the reliance on cloud infrastructure, so I guess that one doesn't really fit. But man, making fun of CrowdStrike for putting so many computers into a multiple day boot loop, it's still really funny. It'd be way less funny if I was in charge of IT during that time, but I'm not, so it's really funny. Ooh. It does make you wonder, are more businesses considering that sort of thing? And it's not like what I suggested here with the actual server rack and whatnot, and actually getting multiple server nodes to go ahead and do all that sort of stuff. You know what it would actually take for a small business of, say, 50 people in today's day and age? I'm not even kidding. You could get away with 2 tower servers, 2 mid-grade tower servers, a little bit of Proxmox virtualization, have the 2 run simultaneously, have them be backup nodes of each other. One goes down, just take it offline, repair it, put it back online. You've got the redundancy. You've got enough cores on those servers to go ahead and make virtual machines for all your services, for your network attached storage and all that sort of jazz. It would not be that hard. It'd be crazy, in fact. Especially when you got frickin' 36, 48 cores on a single CPU. Bunch of quad core servers off that. No problem at all. But instead, it's just cheaper and just seems less of a hassle to go ahead and just trust the cloud, just kind of blindly. And I do wonder, will we ever go back to the day when people would go ahead and run their own personal servers? Probably not, because more and more businesses are just getting addicted to the concept of AI, which of course is all cloud-based anyway. So I guess the dreams of just 2 small little tower servers in redundancy for a small business of 50 people probably far more of a pipe dream than ever before. So who knows? It is something, though, I would consider businesses consider. AWS has proven they can go down. Cloudflare has proven they can go down. Nothing is bulletproof. So for now, all we can do is wait and see what happens. How long do you think it's be until the next major cloud outage? I don't think we'll get another one this year. I don't think we're going to see another one this year. Probably January, if I had to guess. But who knows? What I do know, though, is that Belkin is now being forced to recall a bunch of their iPhone tracking stands that exist for some reason, as well as 2 different power banks because they can spontaneously combust. The units in question are, in fact, the quote, Auto Tracking Stand Pro for the iPhone, and oh, here we go. Here's the exact model numbers. The Auto Tracking Stand Pro will have the model number MMA008. The 2 power banks in question that are also being recalled are the BPB002 and the PB0003. So the MMA 008, BPB002, and PB0003. Those are all by Belkin. MMA is a stand. The other 2 are just power banks. All 3 of them can spontaneously combust. These were sold through Best Buy, Target, Walmart, and Amazon. Roughly over 83,000 of them were sold in the US. Just shy of 2,400 were sold in Canada. So if you have those devices, contact Belkin. You'll receive a full refund plus, I want to make sure I read that right. Plus you receive full refunds, or you have the option of a store credits for the full amount plus a 20% bonus. That's a tough one. I think I'd have to think about that. 20% extra. That actually might be worth it, depending on what you get. But then again, if you already had 3 devices, really, with faulty batteries that can combust, do you really want to chance it with another? It's something I would think about. But I think when push comes to shove, I think I would end up just taking the full refund, not knowing what is in Belkin's product catalog at all. But speaking of battery usage, Google is now going to be flagging Android apps that use excessive battery use directly in the Play Store. This is actually really nice. Not gonna lie. Big fan of this. So this way, you know, right off the bat, when you go ahead and have, ooh, man, my battery just seems to die super quick. We can just go ahead. If your phone, for whatever reason, isn't tracking battery usage all that well, we can just go into your app store, check your apps, see if any of them are just flagged for consuming excessive battery because they're not optimized. Or heck, you can just go ahead and know, hey, I'm on an aging phone. The battery is not that great. Maybe I shouldn't download the thing that's flagged to just absolutely shred the battery. I don't think an animated wallpaper is really that necessary. To which the rest of us are going to go, no. Really? You think? So yeah, I like this feature. I like this a lot. I hope it goes over very, very well. We'll have to wait and see how effective this new method is, because let's be perfectly honest, we are talking about Google. And Google has this bad habit of launching a feature that sounds really good on paper, and then in practice, it's just not that great. And it's just so disappointing. So we'll wait and see. Meanwhile, there is another, speaking of vulnerabilities, not really speaking of vulnerabilities, but there is a video out there by a man by the name of John Hammond. I want to bring this to all my streamer friends' attention. He interviewed a man by the name of Lethal Panda. And I'll make sure this YouTube video is actually in the description. You can go ahead and watch it for yourself. We're not going to go ahead and use any kind of clips or any sort of voice clips from this thing. But what's interesting about this is that they're talking about some exploits that exist in commonly used Twitch bots, specifically in Nightbot and in the Stream Elements bot. I'd also say these exploits can also extend over to Ankbot, as well as the only iteration of Ankbot that still exists, and that being the Streamlabs bot. Now, the two major culprits, that being Nightbot and Stream Elements, have both been notified of this. And before you start panicking, before you go ahead and do what I almost did and put it right in the title of going, oh, if you run a stream, you need to know about this exploit. Oh, it's going to be terrible. Oh my God. Honestly, the exploit isn't that bad. I mean, it's bad because it can allow an attacker to go ahead and take full moderation access of the bot and go execute whatever moderation commands he or she desires. The thing is that it is very easy to avoid. Basically, it boils down like this. All right. This has been tested on both Stream Elements and on Nightbot, but it can be executed on other ones. Basically, if you're going through and making custom commands for these bots, do not have any return be a user string. So in the case of Nightbot, this is $ right square or left square bracket 1 right square bracket. This is any sort of command that lets the user type in something simple and have the bot respond with it. So like, let's say you did like an exclamation mark ban, and then the user puts in something silly, and then all the bot returns was just a text line that says banning so-and-so, but not actually doing anything about it. That seems simple, harmless, right? The problem is that by giving that user string, if they go ahead and try to do exclamation mark, in this case ban, and then a whole code string, it can trick the bot into executing that code string and thus giving the attacker moderation access. Now, the fix to this is very simple. Okay. First off, Lethal Panda has already informed both the Nightbot dev team and the Streamlabs or the Stream Elements dev team about the exploit. Most likely it's going to be patched out pretty quickly. Okay. But if you're extra paranoid like I am, okay, I would recommend if you have any commands like this, and I admit I've got one or two, I would recommend deleting them. Just get rid of them. Or just changing it so that they don't return the user string. Easiest way to avoid the attack. Easy peasy. That's all you got to do. So I do recommend all of my streamer friends, if you do use Nightbot or MooBot or Stream Elements bot or whatever, if you have any commands out there that use a user string, disable the command. Plain and simple. And it's supposed to have to be a user string that the bot returns that same user string. Just disable the command. It wasn't doing anything of value anyway. It was just being cute. Just get rid of it. Easy peasy. Okay? Easiest solution in all this. The end. This is all there is to it. Do spread the word. It is a vulnerability, but it's not an earth-shattering one. It is one, however, that is very, very easy to just not deal with. So realistically, we should just go ahead and not deal with it. Very simple. Man, you could tell I just went to a tab that has light mode on it because everything just lit up. Just like that. If you're watching the video feed. Before I go to our first break, I actually want to talk about this little troubling story. That being that Google is collecting troves of data from Nest thermostats that were downgraded. So here's the weird thing, okay? The Nest thermostats, by the way, they are now no longer serviced by Google. They no longer work. They no longer function as thermostats, which, by the way, I do not understand still to this day why you'd have a smart thermostat that when it doesn't have connection to its home server, it doesn't just have the basic functionalities of a dumb thermostat. That seems like the easy fix to me. But what's even better is that the earlier versions, the first and second one, are still finding a server to connect to and are transmitting data to said server. And the server's not talking back to give updates or provide anything of value. It's just taking information. Oh boy. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you do about I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It just kind of is what it is. It's just there. So yeah, just in case you thought the, I don't know, the whole Nest thing is disappointing to me. It really, really is. Because we just want this sort of stuff to work, right? You would just hope for something like a thermostat. When the cloud service is gone, it would just at least provide the basics. Maybe it does and no one's talking about it. I don't know. But I just feel like we have the technology nowadays to get around this sort of thing. Like, it doesn't need to connect to a home base out in California to just telephone or tell your phone about the current status of the home. But I guess it just is what it is. We're going to go ahead and take our first break here. When we come back, I got a lot of AI news we need to talk about, including a very unfortunate future for all of our game consoles in the very near future. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. You're not going to believe this, but we actually do have a sponsor, and it's me, which is it sounds very boring, but hear me out. We finally have a merch store. This has been something that's been kind of off and on in the works for a couple of years now, in fact, but my own sarcastic bit of humor now being put onto t-shirts, mugs, water bottles, sweatshirts, probably eventually mouse pads, and any other basically ridiculous piece of merch is now available, all thanks to Fourth Wall. So the link to the shop is in the description of the podcast. I mean, I could tell you right now, it's the eaglefalcon-shop-fourthwall.com. You're not going to remember that. Just go to the link. Or if you're at twitch.tv/eaglefalcon, exclamation mark merch. I'll give you a link right to it, to our nameless shop, which will have a name at some point. Probably. Google was the mechanical man this time. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. They went ahead and actually figured out Apple's airdrop feature. For those who don't know, Apple airdrop is kind of one of those Apple things that just seems like pure magic, where you go ahead and just set up a thing that you want to share, and then you just go ahead, bring your phone right up to the other phone, and it transmits it instantly via NFC. When it works, it is just magical. And Android had nothing really quite like it. They had quick share and things like it, but that just wasn't the same. It didn't have the same magic or anything like that. No. It wasn't cool. But now Google figured out airdrop. And now Google's quick share will in fact support the airdrop protocol. So does this just mean that's it? Android now has airdrop. They can go ahead and share files with their iPhone cousins and with each other. No problem. Easy peasy. Happy trails. We're all good. For now, I have a hard time imagining Apple's going to be happy about this and be like, hey, congrats on cracking our tech. That's crazy. What a great feature to announce. How great for the betterment of mankind, so that we can bridge the gap between Android users and Apple users to utilize this great feature across all platforms. What an amazing advancement. You really think Apple's going to be like that? Because if you think Apple's going to be like that, I have some swampland I'd like to sell you, because there's no way Apple's going to sit on this quietly. How long is it going to be until Apple pushes out an update to brick this? I don't know. I think it is almost inevitable. I think it is only a matter of time until Apple does something, anything to brick this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Apple's just be like, maybe it is for the better that everyone can use airdrop. But if that was the case, they would have instead opened up iMessage instead of letting the color bubbles be such a divisive thing for so long. We'll see. We shall see. By the by, and a thing you didn't expect coming, Fortnite is now letting Unity games run inside Fortnite, which, I don't know what to make of this. Fortnite is just very quickly just becoming so much more than it was ever intended to be. Fortnite is very quickly becoming like Roblox, where it's no longer just a building battle royale game. There's so many different like developer game modes being put in it. There's concerts that are held within Fortnite. Like, it's just very quickly becoming its own like sandbox game that people make mini games within, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's very much becoming much like Roblox, except with less pedophiles. So I do gotta ask, how much is this gonna change? Well, I don't know yet. This is gonna be very, very interesting to see down the road. All we can do is wait and see. Although, man, speaking of Roblox, let's talk about them for a minute. The CEO of Roblox might in fact be the dumbest human being on the planet. For you see, the CEO of Roblox, Mr. Bazuki, went and did an interview of his own free will, mind you. He was approached for an interview and said, yes, I thought it'd be a good thing for the company. The problem is that when this is wild, by the way, I can't believe this is a thing that a real person said. When the interviewer asked, how do you plan on approaching the problem of predators on Roblox? He replies with, we think of it not necessarily as a problem, but an opportunity as well. How do we allow young people to build, communicate, and hang out together? How do we build the future of communication at the same time? I think the only way he could have given a worse answer was being pro-predator. This is just like, this is a word salad and a half. I have seen drunk politicians make more sense than this. It's not necessarily just a problem, but an opportunity as well. I want to remind you, this is the same game platform that when it was being exposed that there were predators and that content creators were going ahead and reporting the predators to the authorities along with all the information and proof to get these predators put behind bars, Roblox responded with a cease and desist to the people trying to stop the child predators. I want to remind you of that for a minute. You want to talk about the thing not being necessarily just a problem, but also an opportunity as well. It could have been. It could have been if you went ahead, first accomplished the first step. All right. The first step to solving any problem is to admit you have a problem. And Roblox just continues to insist they don't have a problem and want to go do whatever fever dream they're talking about. This is also the same guy, by the way, that thought that putting in a Tinder-like dating application or feature into Roblox for people 17 and up was a good idea. This is also the same game platform that I have proven on the podcast live that there is no checks or restrictions to, first off, keep anyone underage from reporting they're older, and also no checks to make sure that anyone who is 17 and up, which, by the way, why is your cutoff 17 plus? I digress. Anyone that's 17 and up, to prove they are 17 and up. As a over 30-year-old man, I was able to register for both a 17 plus account and a 16 and under account. And the best part is it didn't even ask for verification of the email. I could have put in fake at notreal.loser for the email, and it would have made the account. For all of their preaching again and again and again of using AI to estimate ages, to go ahead and have all kinds of algorithms in place and other AI agents to go ahead and verify age, they can't even do the basics that forums in the late 90s were doing. You have less age verification than early 2000s Newgrounds. I want, like, as far as like the whole Roblox thing, I could care less about Roblox. Roblox would go bankrupt for all I care. In fact, maybe Roblox going bankrupt, falling off the face of the earth, might in fact be a betterment to mankind. Okay, I have no horse in that race, but I do find it shocking, and I do find it my obligation as a spreader of information to let as many people know as possible that Roblox, a platform that is marketed for kids, might in fact be the most dangerous place for kids to be on the entire internet. They actually might be safer on Twitter, which, by the way, don't let your kid go on Twitter. That's a bad idea too. It's insane to me, the amount of denial that they're in. It's crazy. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Speaking of in denial, Netflix believes that they can still provide games. You know what, honestly, not the dumbest thing out there. I find it hilarious. I find it cute. But for the most part, I just have to wonder, is anyone actually using this? The Netflix gaming features? Like, I'm a little curious now. All right, Netflix gaming. All right, what do we got? Netflix games. All right, it is making noise against my will. Okay, we got Boggle, which appears to just be something I'm kind of surprised Jackbox didn't make yet, where you're doing like little mini Scrabbles against each other on your phone. Okay. We have Lego Party. We have Tetris Time Warp, Pictionary, that Boggle thing I just mentioned, Party Crashers, which is basically faking it from Jackbox. A bunch of other ones I've never heard of. You know what I'm actually kind of surprised is not on here? Jackbox. Apparently we do have Football Manager 26 mobile, Farming Simulator 23, a Squid Game mobile game that I'm not surprised exists on here at all. And for the most part, it looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 14 games, and then a bunch of mobile games. And that's pretty much it. Look, I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone how to spend their money. If you really want to try some of this out, I mean, go for it. Maybe it's interesting. But a Jackbox party pack is $20. And that's just yours to keep forever. There's like 10 of them now. If you want digital party games to play with the family or with parties, it's not hard to get your hands on them. I'm just saying. It's very easy to do. So, we'll see. We shall see. By the way, in other news, Google is launching Gemini 3. Its next version of AI that is its smartest one yet. In other news, other major investors are offloading Nvidia shares, which caused a major dip in the stock market a couple of days ago, as some speculation that AI might in fact be a bubble. No. AI? A bubble? No. Who could have seen that come? Who would have thought that the supply and demand equation for AI is grossly out of whack and has been inflated by countless tech CEOs that desperately want AI to be a major thing? Now, here's the thing, like AI is still going very, very strong. There's more and more AI data centers being made on the regular. I'm only not doing the voice effect because my throat already feels kind of shredded, and I really don't want to go ahead and do the whole AI thing with like the rumble and whatnot. Although that actually sounded pretty good even without trying to scratch my throat, but I digress. The point is we are finally starting to see some common sense in all this, because the only people who are really looking forward to AI are major tech CEOs that want to imagine all the automation that AI could possibly do, despite the fact that it hallucinates and can never be as good as a person, or get rich quick drifters and grifters that are pumping out tons upon tons upon tons of AI cooking recipes and videos and other such nonsensical slop, and trying to rake in as much quick ad revenue before forces begin to finally crack down on the massive amounts of worthless slop out there. Because even though the average person, like say your parents, don't utilize AI at all, even though it's being forced down their throats, they are still consuming the products of AI out there because they see a recipe of a good-looking chicken breast out there that's covered in mozzarella, only for the recipe to be nonsensical, involve a bottle of Coca-Cola, an aluminum foil boat, and the whole thing being generated by AI. And most likely, when all is said and done, is not a good recipe to follow at all. I actually wonder how many people who are not like as tech savvy end up following an AI cooking recipe unknowingly and end up making some of this junk. It's a curious question. I don't have an answer for it though. I really, really don't. Meanwhile though, Windows is pushing more and more AI agents down your throat. Windows 11 is showing off a preview version that will contain, quote, AI agents in their own little, quote, secure session, which users can share data with and go ahead and do all kinds of little tasks. The thought process is to go ahead and have these little AI bots on Windows that can go ahead and solve basic tasks for you. Like you have a search bot, you have a graphic design bot, and all kinds of these other little things. And look, I'll be blunt, I've seen how Windows 11 works, or how AI works on Windows 11. I'm not impressed, and I don't think anyone is. Like, we push so hard for this sort of stuff. And by we, I mean they. We're not pushing for anything. We're trying to push against this so hard, and it just keeps being shoved down our throats whether we want it or not, and I'm so getting sick of it. But people keep buying Windows, so people must want it, despite the fact that it's just Microsoft kind of flexing their basic complete monopoly over the PC market. What can you do? What can you do? And of course, just a reminder, in case you, for some reason, are delusional enough to think that, in fact, AI is infallible and is always right about everything, I just want to remind you, Grok says that Elon Musk is smarter than Einstein and more fit than LeBron James. I think that might be wrong. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I think it's wrong. I'll get back to you on that with a follow-up. Now, all the AI news isn't all bad. There is one glimmer of hope in all this. And of all people, it's coming from TikTok. What? TikTok? How is TikTok helping anyone? well, TikTok is going to be adding options to let users tone down the amount of AI content in their feed. What? I mean, I guess since China's having trouble keeping up with the Western market and generating AI slop, I guess they might as well go ahead and introduce features that limit the amount of slop made by foreign agents are on their platform. I guess it makes sense. To be honest, can we please have this everywhere? Please? Please? Pretty please? Please? No? Oh. Seriously, I think all of us want this on YouTube and everything else. In fact, actually, all of us just want less AI in general, mostly just because of this graph. I'm going to warn you now. This graph is terrifying. You're not ready to see this graph. This is from PC Part Picker. Okay? This is the price of 64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. Beginning of this year, pretty solid, $150 for 2 sticks at 32 gigabytes, all right? That's fine. Everything's kind of just going a little bit up, a little bit down. Then we start seeing it slowly tick up into July. August, it's what used to be $150 is now $200. September, now up to $250. October, now $300. And now to today, in November, where what used to be $150 is now $460. All because all the RAM supplies are being bought up for more and more and more AI data centers. And the fabs can't keep up. And this isn't a sudden spike just now. Like I said, this began in July. It was a slow creep. And guess what? It's not just DDR4. DDR5 is a very similar story. Although DDR5 is much more sudden. Let's go back down to that same 64 gigabyte package. For DDR5, $200 pretty much consistently from the beginning of 2025 all the way through September. This one is a much more sudden spike. October, we see it breach from 200 up to 225. By the end of October, it is now up to 350. To where we are now in November, it is north of $600. You're talking a price increase over 2 months of 300%. Well, I guess we're not building any PCs anytime soon, right? In fact, heck, I'm looking really happy at the fact that I went ahead and bought my extra RAM when I started seeing the price increase just to get ahead of the game. So, hey, in the case of my build, all golden. PC gaming, not going to be looking good. You got to go ahead and put up with just making do for now. But that's it, right? Notice how it covered both DDR4 and DDR5? Because even though the speeds of the controller and the form factor are different, in the end, the shortage is on the memory modules themselves. This not only affects DDR4 and DDR5, this affects LP DDR5. This affects G DDR5. This affects all modern RAM. That whole Steam machine thing, remember how everyone is trying to figure out whether the thing's going to be $400, $500, or $800 or it north of $1,000? I want you to think about something for a minute. That Steam machine that's going to be coming out has a grand total of 24 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of DDR5 SODIMMs, and 8 gigabytes of GDDR5 or 6. I don't know which one it is. All of your game consoles all run GDDR5. The PS5, the Xbox Series, and even the Switch 2. Heck, all of your GPUs use GDDR. Your phones, your tablets, all use LP RAM. While a lot of the gaming space is dreading the RAM price increase because it means that the Steam Deck might not be affordable, we need to take a step back and realize this affects everything. Every single computer that uses any kind of remotely modern RAM is going to have their price increased because some of the core components just had their price increase by over triple. And the thing is, we don't see any signs of it going down or even not growing. The graph for DDR5 shows a little bit of a plateau at top there, so we can go ahead and huff a whole bunch of hopium and copium here and assume that's the highest it's ever going to go. That's the peak of how high that is going to end up going. We don't know how much more expensive this is going to get. This is insane. And this also, and to also be clear, this isn't just RAM. We're starting to see something similar happen to flash storage, because of course the data centers need their storage to power the AI machines. This isn't just something that's going to affect the PC building space. This isn't just going to affect the Steam machine. This is going to affect the Steam Deck. This is going to affect the Switch 2. This is going to affect the Xbox Series X. This is going to affect the PlayStation 5. This is going to affect the PlayStation 5 Pro. This is going to affect every single PC build out there. This is going to affect every modern phone that is coming out soon. This is going to affect every single storage device. This is going to affect pretty much every single piece of compute out there. And I wish this was hyperbole. I wish that I was just overreacting. I hope that just overnight, some factory somewhere gets its act together and fixes the shortage problem in the blink of an eye. I hope for that. I think all of us would. But I don't work on hopes. If I went ahead and worked on hopes and dreams, I'd starve to death. I instead have to look at reality. And reality doesn't look good. So I don't want to cause a panic or anything, but expect a price increase to your consoles. Expect a price increase to cell phones and whatnot. If you're hoping to find a good technology deal on Black Friday, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're not going to find one. I think any sort of aggressive pricing that may have had happened on Black Friday is just simply not going to happen. And that's just all there is to it. It's unfortunate, but that is, in fact, reality. We're going to take our last break here. When we come back, I want to talk about the possible Mac Pro's demise and also just give some nice words from the heart going into the Thanksgiving holiday. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Reports are coming in specifically from, I'm pretty sure this is from Mark Gurman. That is in fact correct. This is coming from Mark Gurman of Bloomberg. Is he still with Bloomberg? I don't know. But he's been kind of he's been a guy who has had insider connections with Apple for a very, very, very long time. So a lot of what he says you can kind of take with quite a bit of reliability. And one of the things he is, I forget it keeps doing that. One of the things he has been mentioning is that, in fact, the Mac Pro, we're talking about the big cheese grater, the big tower, the actual full-blown workstation that Apple has, is going on the back burner and is largely written off by Apple. And it's not very surprising, because here's the thing. Apple has accidentally made the Mac Pro worthless. Here's the problem, all right? The current architecture that Apple is using, we're no longer using a traditional form factor for how everything is laid out on the motherboard. Normally on a PC, you have a CPU, sits somewhere on the board, usually in the top of the board, in a workstation. That then CPU is then flanked with anywhere from 4 to 20 different RAM slots that all feed this monolithic workhorse of a CPU. That then goes to a chipset. That chipset then powers all of the I/O except for the PCI Express slots. Those go directly to the CPU to lessen the bottleneck. And on those PCI Express slots, you have things like your discrete GPU, possibly even multiple discrete GPUs in insane workstation workloads. And keep in mind, that isn't like something that only crazy people do. AI developers will go ahead and have multiple GPUs inside a workstation. That's uncommon, but not that uncommon. And now, the way Apple does it now is there is no chipset. There are no RAM DIMM slots, and the GPU is on the CPU die itself. It's all what's referred to as a SoC, a system on a chip. And the way Apple designed this SoC, it has almost no ability to truly upgrade. You can add storage to it. I believe there are some models that even can tap into external RAM. But remember how I said that some workstations will utilize multiple GPUs? Apple Silicon cannot utilize any GPU other than its own. And Apple is so pig-headed in its ways, they're not making a discrete GPU. They believe the GPU on their Ultra SoC is more than enough. So one of the advantages the Mac Pro has, all of the PCI Express expansion for I/O, is almost completely lost because the system on a chip, the SoC, doesn't support a whole lot of expansion. Your big advantage is already gone. Not because it's not necessary, but because your architecture doesn't support it. You can add in I/O add-in cards. You can add more USB. You can add more Ethernet, but you cannot add in a discrete GPU or auxiliary compute module or anything. The whole point of a full tower like the Mac Pro is to customize it for your needs, and you can't. The other reason for a full-size tower like this is cooling. Air intake in the front, hot air out the back. Simple design, works for every server in existence, works for pretty much every workstation in existence. I'd say even works for my current workstation, even though my current workstation is so efficient, I haven't been able to afford front fans for it. And it pretty much just has just the radiator up top that just exhausts all the air out the top. Yeah, I'm hoping for fans this Christmas, but I digress. The thing is that this kind of cooling isn't necessary because Apple also has the Mac Studio. And its cooling, despite the fact that all it is an extra thick Mac Mini, its cooling is more than enough. So as horrible as it sounds, there's only one thing the Mac Pro actually excels at. Well, actually two things. Very specific I/O upgrades and the ability to be very inefficient in a server rack. Yeah, the Mac Pro can be rack mounted into a server, and because it is just a full tower, not an actual server, it doesn't need a very deep server rack to go into. So a lot of audio engineers utilize the rack mountable Mac Pro for their audio stacks. But here's the thing, there aren't many audio engineers out there. And I know the audio engineers want to hear this, but you could very easily just put a Mac Studio on top of your little audio rack. So yeah, we're going to see probably, Mark Gurman is just saying that the Mac Pro is on the back burner and largely written off by Apple, and that there is in fact a new high-end M5 Ultra chip, but it's going to be only for the Mac Studio. The M5 Ultra, by the way, would be their top of the line high-end Apple Silicon chip, where the Ultra is basically two of the Max chips fused together. That's going to be Mac Studio exclusive, meaning the Mac Pro is going to still be stuck on the M2 Ultra. Still. So is the Mac Pro going to die? I think it is. Apple doesn't seem interested in trying to make big, expandable, customizable systems. And for the most part, Apple customers just seem to just accept that the Mac Studio is enough. And those who truly want the massive expandability of the Mac Pro, well, let's be honest, they probably already went back to PC, because that's where you're going to get that kind of I/O, that expandability for much cheaper and in a much less hostile environment, which is unfortunate because many of those audio engineers really did like Pro Tools. Or it's not Pro Tools. What is the one that Apple has? The audio version of their Final Cut. I can't remember what it is now. But regardless, it just unfortunately is what it is. It is kind of a shame because you look back at the history of Apple and the mid and full size towers, the Power Macs, the original Mac Pros, the designs they implemented would have made actual PC builders jealous. Not a cable in sight. Everything elegant, simple. Heck, even the Power Mac G3 and G4, they mounted the motherboard on the door. You'd flick a lever, the entire door would come down, and the entire motherboard laid out right there for you to go ahead and add and tinker whatever you wanted. You would have never believed that was from Apple. Alas, that's going to go away. And it truly is a shame, but it just is what it is. Meanwhile, on the PC side, not everything is just as happy either. HP and Dell, for whatever reason, went ahead and disabled encoder support, specifically for HEVC and H.265 on the BIOS level, all because of, get this, royalty fees, allegedly. Now, this is a problem with the industry more than anything. The licensee apparently is going to be getting more and more expensive coming in January. So rather than HP and Dell paying these increased licensing fees, they're just disabling this technology. And for the most part, I don't think the average person will notice. But I'll tell you what, the streamer will. H.265. Oh, wait, no, we use H.264. What do we use? I am now actually confused. I don't think I'm able to view it because I use NVENC. Oh, NVENC is H.264. Whoops. Can I view my other options? I cannot. Is there anywhere I can view my other options? I want to make sure I actually have these correct. Oh yeah, the more modern one is AV1. But 264 is what I used to use on the CPU side of things. H.265 is what I currently use. AV1 is what things are starting to switch towards. So, I mean, there is that. I still can't believe Twitch doesn't support AV1 unless I just hand over my settings over to Twitch, which is insane, by the way. Absolutely insane. But I digress. So yeah, apparently H.265 is getting too expensive, so they're going to not support that. That's a yikes. That's a big yikes. I'll be very curious if there ends up being a wave of people complaining that they can't go ahead and view certain things because their laptops have H.265 disabled. I don't know. That's an area I admit I am not fully knowledgeable in. It is just absolutely wild that is a thing they are doing. Meanwhile, though, Microsoft wants to go ahead and launch the Xbox full screen experience for more than just their handhelds. They're looking for this kind of skin they put on top of the handhelds to be available for all Windows 11 gaming PCs, to which, respectfully, go plow yourself with a rake, the wide end. Okay, thanks, bye. I'll tell you what, all right? Soon, Valve is going to be enabling SteamOS for any device, that you can go ahead, just get a CD, install SteamOS, and be done with it. I'm not going to lie. It is very, 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 very tempting that when the little mini ITX computer gets built into my streaming rig, that the whole thing just gets SteamOS installed on it. Because this is absurd. There's just no other way around it. Like, I get it's just me a feature. It's going to be an option. You don't have to interact with it. But here's the problem. I know how Microsoft operates. Edge is an option. When Internet Explorer is an option. Outlook is an option. What ends up happening the moment I decide to not use an option? It keeps getting shoved down my throat. And it gets aggravating. It gets infuriating. So I can't wait to find out one day you try to fire up a game, not really to Xbox at all. I try to fire up, like, say, the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV that includes a free trial up to level 70, including the award-winning expansion Stormblood with no restriction on playtime. If I fire that up, and the stupid Xbox overlay automatically kicks in, I will not be happy. I'm not saying it will happen, but holy smokes, I would not be surprised if that's exactly what ends up happening. And I really do hope that is not the case. Finally, I bring you the last burb, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a story about tech billionaires wanting to go ahead and make gene-edited bebés? The thing is that there's, of course, all kinds of bans across the globe about doing anything of the sort, but considering the fact that there already seems to be a mental illness with our tech billionaires called, the thing called AI, that seems to have infected their brains, it doesn't surprise me at all if they believe that they know best and that laws should not apply to them. It just seems to be something that just goes across the board in general. And quite frankly, I mean, it's their life. They can go ahead and do whatever the flip they want to it. It's illegal for a reason. I'm just saying. And considering how little we know of the technology, it has the technology might down the road have great potential, but for the most part, I think you're kind of in the realm of science fiction right now. But with that, we're out of time for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening. But before we go, I want to share with you one piece of music. It's one that I play that when I remember, because I've wanted to make it a tradition but we never get around to it. And it's always been kind of awkward to do it. It is the track Home Sweet Home. Because this is Thanksgiving week here in the States. And for the most part, it is a holiday that is just looked at as just an excuse to just pig out in a whole bunch of food. But it's also to celebrate, an important moment in the founding of the country. But many families, mine included, and I hope yours as well, looks at Thanksgiving as a moment of everyone coming home, of long lost siblings, distant families that go ahead and do their own thing far away, a touchback base at back home. And yeah, we do it in Christmas as well, or Hanukkah, or whatever you may celebrate. But many look at Thanksgiving as the first point of contact. So, from my family to yours, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And if you know anyone, whether it be a long-lost brother, a sister, someone you just don't contact a whole lot, an uncle, aunt, whomever, go ahead, check in on them and wish them a happy Thanksgiving too. And with that, my friends, I hope you have a good day and have a very happy Thanksgiving. And I'll check out my other works, twitch.tv/EagleFalcon, youtube.com/EagleFalcon, also the new merch store, description in the whatchacallits or whatever. Take care and have a great week. Bye-bye.